Imagine a world of the future, where mechanical implants, body augments, and always being connected to the network are simply everyday life. No, this isn't a review of Cyberpunk 2077, but Foreclosed gives us another look at what the future might hold, this time with all the slick stylings of a comic book. You play as Evan Kapnos, a man whose identity has been foreclosed. His job is taken away, his implants are shut off, and his access to the city network are all revoked. You're tasked with finding out who did this and why, all while fighting to survive before your identity and implants are auctioned off. Foreclosed is a beautiful blend of comic books and video games. Take all the aesthetic appeal and charm from comics, the printed dot colors, the separate panels, and the boom, bang, kapow of written sound effects, and then add some third-person shooter gameplay to it. You control Kapnos through each comic panel, whether it be walking and interacting with objects like elevators, buttons and switches, or talking to other characters and then jumping into full third-person shooter action, diving, ducking behind cover, and then shooting everyone that gets in your way. Without going into story spoilers, Kapnos finds a way to get some of his body mods working again, giving him access to various different abilities that can be mapped to any of the 4 of the buttons, triangle, circle, cross, and square on PlayStation. Some examples of these abilities are creating a pulse of energy over an enemy's head, doing damage over time, trapping an enemy in a cage of electrical force, leaving them vulnerable for a few seconds, shielding yourself with an impenetrable barrier for a few seconds, and there are a few more. While these abilities can be used an unlimited amount of times, each has a certain amount of power drain on his body that if you use too much, will overload his implants and cause him to short circuit for a few seconds, leaving you vulnerable to attack. So this is kind of your classic risk versus reward style of scenario. Besides your powers, while in combat, Kapnos has a pistol with unlimited ammo that can be upgraded with up to 3 different mods at one time. These range from things like armor piercing ability, rapid fire, explosive bullets, and more. But like your body augmentations, the more mods put more strain on his implants and cause them to overheat faster. Finding the right combination of abilities and mods throughout your playtime makes combat an engaging and fun activity that continually changes and keeps you on your toes. There are not many different enemy types throughout the game. Every enemy is basically a person in a suit trying to shoot you down. They do have some different variations, with some wearing helmets, body armor, and others carrying energy shields. Your gun mods will make a world of difference when fighting these different enemy types, as they are all pretty bullet spongy unless you're aiming for their head. Each combat encounter rewards you with XP, and once you receive enough, you unlock a skill point that can be put towards unlocking any of these abilities or gun upgrades. The levels themselves are fairly linear, with one main path to follow, and the action is broken up very well with no sections dragging on too long without any combat. There are minor area puzzles like moving crates with cranes to open up new paths, and little hacking games where you focus on an object like a door or a turret, and you have to push 4 buttons on the D-pad in the correct direction quick enough to unlock them. The only collectibles in the game are these mysterious signals or sources that are scattered throughout each stage. They will pop up on your screen with a little radar showing you how close you are to the source. As you get closer, the radar will fill out more, and once you are within range, you must find the source and hold X, collecting the source and gaining a small boost of XP. These do require a little bit of exploration and can be tricky to find, as they're usually hidden in small corners of rooms or areas that you don't have to go to for the main path. So keep your eyes open and explore each area thoroughly so as not to miss any. I was able to complete the entire game, as well as cleaning up any missing trophies, in just under 3 hours, and I feel I was going through it at a decent pace, although I did die a few times in a couple sections, forcing me to restart them. The music, sound effects, and voice acting in Foreclosed are spot on. Every character sounds great and really elevates the experience. Guns sound punchy as you'd expect, and the soundtracks made the mood and scenes in each beat. While there are not a lot of characters or different weapons for variation, I never found myself sick of any of the effects and enjoyed them all throughout my playthrough. If you're a fan of comic books, Foreclosed will probably speak to you right away. I can't think of any other games that have represented comics so well like they have been here. Oftentimes the screen would split into 2 or 3 different comic panels, and you'll see the character walking from one panel to the next, each with a different perspective. I'm really happy to say that even with transitions like this, I never got stuck suddenly going the wrong way because of perspective shift, and all the transitions worked really smoothly. The art style helps make you feel like you're inside the comic even more, and the added touch of sound effects popping up on screen in classic comic book fashion just helps sell it even more. This being a cyberpunk and futuristic game, there are plenty of futuristic looking set pieces as well that help sell the whole idea. From electronic blockades that appear to stop you going where you shouldn't, to digital signs on the walls and semi-transparent augments built right into people's skin, I was very happy with all the visuals. I played on the PS5, and while it is really good, it's not all polish and perfection. I did find a lot of clipping graphical errors if you're running around against walls, and the camera would sometimes get a little tricky when in tighter areas or close to the wall. Overall, none of these issues caused me very much of a problem, but they are noticeable and did pop up multiple times while playing. Foreclosed does include a platinum trophy that's not very difficult to get. I was able to get the platinum in under 3 hours, although depending on how you want to play the game, it may take a little longer than that. The only truly missable trophy is called A Voice in the Dark, which is tied to collecting all the hidden signals in a single run. These are the collectibles that are scattered throughout all the chapters, and there's no tracker to know if you've missed any. The levels are not that big, so if you explore thoroughly, you should be able to find them all on your first time through like I did. Most of the other trophies are tied to things like getting a certain number of stealth kills, or headshots, or using certain abilities. These can be easily cheesed by getting a few headshots, then dying or quitting to the main menu and continuing, which restarts you at the last checkpoint with the enemies alive again, and then repeating. Alternatively, after beating the game, you do unlock a chapter select, so you can easily jump back into a chapter with a lot of enemies and focus on getting the type of kills you need for the trophies, and then repeat. I only had to use the chapter select for 2 trophies at the very end that I didn't get in my first playthrough. Foreclosed is a great entry in the cyberpunk genre and a love letter to all things comic books. I thoroughly enjoyed my time playing Foreclosed, and I would highly recommend it to anyone who's a fan of either cyberpunk, comics, or just fun, fast action third-person shooters. While it was a bit on the short side, the story itself moved at a really good pace, and each level was well crafted and never felt like there was any filler. The gameplay was fun, and after unlocking a few abilities, the battles went from being slow-paced, pop out of cover and shoot, to all-out war, spamming abilities and powered-up shots at enemies all over the place. The story does have a nice conclusion to it, and while the game does give some choice in what your main character says, it does not really impact the story overall, which is a little bit of a letdown. Having chapter select after the main game is done is a nice bonus, but after getting the platinum trophy, there isn't really anything left in terms of replay value. If you're looking for a short but fun entry in the cyberpunk genre of third-person shooters, Foreclosed should be right up your alley. It features a solid story, fun quick action, and a great comic aesthetic throughout. I rate it as an 8 out of 10. A huge thank you to Merge Games and Antab Studio for sending me a review copy for the PS5, and thank you so much for watching. Foreclosed is available now on Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, Stadia, and Windows. And as always, happy gaming.